We are back. Oakland Sports, past, present, and future. I'm Ralph Tyko with the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network and the hosts of the show, co-hosts as they are. Ladies first, Nancy Finley. Hello, Nancy.
Thank you. Hello.
Hey, and Jerry Feitelberg. How are you?
Good morning, Ralph. How you doing? Ralph?
Good morning. For 2 out of 3 of us, it's a Happy New Year. The last day or so, and for Nancy, she's honorary. Happy New Year. As Nancy says, every day's a happy day for her.
Yes.
And
me too.
Good. I'm going to start off with kind of a down note. We, Nancy and I don't know if Jerry heard the story too. Nancy, we're talking off air. Tragic story about in Yankee Stadium. A little girl was hit by a foul ball. Todd Frazier was the batter. It was off his bat, and the ball eluded what should have been netting. We'll talk about that in a second. And hit a little girl right in the face, devastating Todd Frazier's. He's got 2 kids. He was just absolutely beside himself. And I want to talk a little bit about this because baseball in the last couple of years recommended in the New York parks, actually for all parks, that they look at their current netting and protection for the fans and see if it needs revising. Now, some teams have been slowly but surely increasing the netting, this, that, and the other thing. Yankees and the Mets haven't been doing much. Yankees, it's a lot of it is fate, but they're going to be sued an awful lot because baseball had some recommendations, which means that they saw the problem in advance, and I'll bet this gets a bunch of teams hopping from
Ralph,
from
this
now
has
on.
happened
And,
for years. This has been going on for a long time, very long time. This is why my father wouldn't let me sit anywhere except the press box.
Really? He had that foresight.
Oh, not only that. And when he first joined the team, he saw the people who were hit because he was there, and Charlie and Dad thought Dad should see the people because of liability, and because that way Dad could say how serious it was. He saw it while the ambulance was getting ready to take them away. Well, Dad saw the worst, and I remember. I sort of remember this. Apparently, I was dancing on top of the dugout in Kansas City with a little frilly balloon-like dress because my cousins were there, and they must have dared me. And the game.
Well, you were 31 at the time.
Yeah, dancing. And the game was getting ready to start, and Dad saw me and just came down and chewed my mom out and Aunt Shirley. Oh, don't you ever let her do that because. How vulnerable is that? But also, I just could not. Dad never let me sit in on the first deck anywhere, except there was a study done. There were 4 seats in section 121 where foul balls never went, and that was the only place I could sit.
You know that Oakland is a little bit better than most of the new ballparks. And the new ballparks, they don't have as much foul space as Oakland.
Oh, that explains. Okay, that explains what happened in a Giants game with my husband recently. Okay.
Right. Yeah, and it would be great to have the netting out there. People sitting back of the screen all the time, back of home plate. And they love sitting there.
Yeah, I used to see that netting, and it wasn't a lot, but yeah.
Yeah, it would help, and it would stop it. You got to remember the baseball is traveling close to 100 miles or more coming off that bat.
Yes.
And when it's coming at you, I remember one time I was down in spring training at Phoenix Muni, and I was just sitting in the back of the first base, where the players set the dugout. The foul ball came straight at us. It was coming, and it comes so fast. Unless you have big league reflexes, you either got to duck, put your hands up to protect yourself, and we were adults. And here was a child just sitting in the parent or grandparent's arms, didn't have a chance. It's on them so fast. And that's why the netting is needed. And you're right. The Yankees are going to find themselves in a lawsuit because of not doing what they were supposed to do.
Well, it's interesting, though, because I remember people looked at Dad like I was overprotected, and that's the risk you take when you are at a game. But I guess with us, it was that we had to be there. We didn't just want to be there, so it was different. But I know that no one really did anything because it was you took your own risk if you went in to look at a game. You watched out, and some people go in with mitts. Little boys, they want to catch.
Sure.
So,
yeah.
but I'm
and
glad.
It has on the back of the ticket. It tells you that you're at your own risk.
That's right. Now, my husband went to a Giants game last year, and he was sitting with a friend, and he was telling the friend about how protective Dad was of me, and he looks, next thing he knows, a ball skimmed right over the head of his friend. I mean, it touched his head, and gave him a little bit of a burn, but his head caused the ball to turn into another direction and hit someone else. But that's odd. As many times as I've been in our Coliseum in Oakland, I don't remember knowing anyone who's had that happen, and yet Morgan, who only went to one game that year, that happened to. So when you mentioned the different stadiums, I thought about that.
Well, this year I had one incident. I was up in the press box, and fortunately I had the glass in front of me. The person
it didn't get up there, did it?
No, it hit the glass right in front of me.
You mean it would have gone up without the glass?
It would have gone through without the glass. It would have landed right in my hands. And it was coming a million miles an hour. It really whacked the glass. And sitting next to me is open, but it didn't go in. And it's very rare.
It must have lost some velocity by the time it was up there, though, right?
It was still coming pretty fast.
Wow. I never knew they went that high.
Yeah, occasionally.
Yeah. Well, also there's the case that the Giants made for all of this a few years ago, and I don't know if they're still doing it. They would encourage fans to bring their gloves, and it was almost like part of the production of the game, where they'd show some fan making a catch in the stands with a glove, and I know, I can't think of it. It might have been Jack Brickhouse, who in the old days, where they'd sign them up. They'd bring out, a fan would make a catch in the stands, and they would come out with a little replica contract and make a big deal, sign up the player and this, that, and the other thing. So initially, when these nettings went up, it was basically fans didn't like it because they wanted that action of the chance of catching a ball and this, that, and the other thing.
They're going to have to leave some space open for that.
Right. I think there's one stadium now that's talking about putting the netting in all the way up to the foul pole, and they no longer care if people's views are somewhat restricted. They want to become enlightened and avoid what happened at the stadium the other day.
Oh God.
Well, I'm not sure the players would like a route, especially down the foul lines. in right field. I've seen so many players, make catches in the first or second row. So
that's true.
Yeah, and the other side of the coin is, if you will go back to the playoffs with the Yankees, you remember when the young kid had the glove out in the right field, and he leaned over and made that catch, and the player was wondering, he interfered with the play, and they ruled it a home run. Well, I don't know, it was 96 or 98, one of those years. Long time ago.
It was Moises Alou who was under that ball, and didn't make the catch, cost them the game, cost them the getting into the World Series, basically.
Yeah.
And
that's painful to watch.
The kid was ostracized throughout Chicago.
Really?
Well, that was
them winning the championship to take the pressure off. They gave him a ring, and they made him part of the ceremony, and it took
heard about
took
that.
the pressure. I mean, they could be with you for the rest of your life. So
yes.
Yeah.
Well,
Bartman couldn't even go into a restaurant after that happened. He couldn't go anywhere. He had such a miserable time, and he was a devoted Cubs fan, and he still is, which is amazing.
Oh, do you remember the catch? Barry Bonds, that when his ball was worth a lot, and those two friends ended up not being friends anymore after the lawsuit. And there is a lot of fan participation when it comes to catching balls, wanting to lean over, be part of things. And Ralph, you're right. They're going to have to make concessions, and they're going to make one side not too pleased. But it's going to have to be, I guess, sacrifice on both.
Yeah.
It's fortunate there hasn't been a death.
Let's segue on that, talking about people not being pleased.
Yes.
The Oakland A's last week came out with an announcement that they've chosen a site. It's going to be the Peralta district near Laney College to build the ballpark. And naturally, there's an opposition. I want Jerry to analyze what the opposition is, what the points they're making. Are they good points, bad points? Can they be overcome?
I have thoughts here. Okay, now listen.
All right, you go first. You can be first because we're always going to go ladies first, Nancy.
Well, I will say that just the fact that they have selected, I don't think it means it's 100% set in stone, but the fact that an Oakland site has been selected should be reason to celebrate. And I've noticed the news articles are somewhat critical, and that surprises me. I thought they would be relieved to see this kind of movement versus what we had in the earlier years. I just think that, someone asked me why it couldn't be the naval base in Alameda, and I thought, yeah, it's right on the water. But then I thought, traffic. There's a traffic issue. Alameda is not right by the freeway.
Believe me, without the stadium, there's an incredible traffic issue in Alameda.
Yeah, that would be perfect on the water. But can you imagine the traffic with what the Levi Strauss Stadium has experienced? So anyway, that's just my take. I guess I thought I expected more acceptance of and relief of, oh, great, they're looking in Oakland now. That one.
Jerry, what do you say about this?
Yes.
Well, if you recall, anytime a stadium or an arena is planned, there's usually opposition to it. Just look at the Golden One Arena in Sacramento. They had to jump through hoops and fight lawsuits to get that thing built. And it just delayed the construction.
The Giants have opposition.
Yeah, there's always going to be. But in the deal with, and it's not a deal yet with Laney College, they have to negotiate. And it's not a done deal yet to build the ballpark.
Right.
That's number one. What is Laney College going to get out of it? What if there's a day game during getaway day on Wednesday and Thursday, and there's classes in session, and the students can't get parking, or there's noise from the stadium? they'll have to deal with those issues to Laney's satisfaction. Plus, would have to move the administration buildings, which they haven't agreed to yet. The other thing that's going to occur, and there's great concern about it, is the damage that could happen to Lake Merritt. And the Audubon Society is opposed to the deal, and they have a lot of supporters. And Lake Merritt was the nation's first official wildlife refuge, and it was established in 1870. And it's home to nearly 200 species of wildlife. And in 2002, the Oakland voters approved a $198 million measure to restore and improve, and they included that 750-foot-long channel that connects the lake, and you saw that in the pictures, and the stadium would be right there to the estuary in the bay.
Okay.
And so you have all this, and then you have the neighborhood, and how much noise and how much traffic is going to be going through the neighborhood, and will the birds and their nests be affected? And then we discussed this the other day, the ramps and parking for cars and the pollutants that will go into the estuary. So these are concerns that have to be addressed by the A's and the people that they will be negotiating with.
How could it be pedestrian friendly, like the Giants? I mean, is there a way that area could be?
No, unless I don't know. The Giants, they have a great walking area along the Embarcadero all the way down to the Embarcadero station on Bart. And it's a lovely walk. And there's several places to stop. There's Red's Java House. There's the High Dive. There's Momo's. Any number of places to stop. And when you come up from Caltrain, you can just a short walk. So you got public transportation. And I don't think that exists at Laney. And I don't know how they would do that. There doesn't appear to be any commercial activity. Right now, there are no restaurants or bars in the area. And they would have to.
Gary, there weren't before the Giants built the stadium down on King Street. There weren't a buildup of bars and restaurants. That was an industrial area.
Oh, China Bay.
Industrial area. And I think the whole idea of a ballpark, especially for a city, is to look with some foresight and to see that yes, the area isn't ideal now. But it's which came first, the chicken or the egg. The stadium itself will induce other businesses to be built up, and everything will form after the stadium is built.
That's true too. Yeah.
Pardon me?
What's your question?
My question is that why with all of these problems, would have it not been easier for the powers that be to choose the already existing site that the Coliseum is on right now? BART is already set up. You wouldn't have to have the freeway ramps.
I don't think that's
talk about vision and build up a little shopping area out there.
Bring back the Hyatt.
Bring back the Hyatt.
Right, the Edgewater, yes.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that would have been my choice, is to build on the existing land and to do what the Giants are doing. The Giants want to build a ballpark village, and the A's should be doing the same thing, so that when people come off the BART ramp, they can come over. There'd be restaurants there for them. I mean, the food truck idea was terrific. People really like that, but you could have it. You want to have the ballpark experience like the Giants, like the Red Sox, like the Yankees, like it is in Chicago, and make it pleasant for people so that they want to come there and make it
I do like how elevated it is.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And if we could have our view back, do away with what they put in for the Raiders.
Well, yeah, they're talking about the stadium.
Another segue, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, I didn't mean.
No. The A's expect to stay. They want to start construction in 2021. If they stay at the Coliseum location, the Raiders will be gone by that time anyway.
They would have that ball.
They could have the whole thing. They could build their ballpark village. They could make it, have, if you want to bring your wife to the game or your girlfriend to the game, they can have parking and shopping available. If the women don't want to, or guys don't want to go to the ballpark, they want to spend the time shopping. Just make it a wonderful experience for the day.
If only it was a little closer to that water, I mean, it is, though.
Yeah. Well, it would be nice.
Well, it's close to an old stream that runs by, but and then there's the other locale that is down by Jack London Square, and I always dreamt of the two stadiums, the new one in Oakland and the Gem in San Francisco, facing each other across the bay, and how that would have been cool. But for some reason, this site was chosen, and I think if you stop to think about what stadiums in Pittsburgh and Colorado and Philadelphia are doing to downtown stadiums are doing to revitalize their cities, may be the best deal after all.
Is there any place near
I'm not crazy about waiting 6 years.
Well, Ralph, near the Oakland airport, and Jeff, is there any place out there that is right there on the water where it's a possibility?
I don't know. I'm sure it took this long to break it down to the last three, and then it's been at least a year and a half to come up with this decision. They must know what they're doing. I'm just sorry that the mayor, Ms. Schaff, Lizzie Schaff, or whatever her name is, I forget, is not more...
Libby Schaff.
Libby Schaff, I'm sorry, is not more behind this and seems to be lukewarm.
I was surprised at the response.
Yeah.
I thought the problems that the A's had with the Howard Terminal site was the cleanup that they have. And they claim that it was colder at night than the current Coliseum. I've been there many times with game time temperature is 61, 62, and this is during the summertime, and it drops down to 51 or 52 degrees at the end of the game. I can't imagine it being much colder over at the Howard Terminal site. I just think that was a red herring on that, for that excuse. I don't believe that. And I think I would love to see it have a nice view just like they do in San Francisco. That'd be fabulous.
Yes.
But it doesn't appear to be in the cards. Yeah.
I know.
Well, you did mention something last week, Jerry, was that walk, if they have it at the Peralta site, the walk to BART to maybe, and I thought, well, what's 0.3 of a mile? But you're right. It's the middle of the night. It's in Oakland. You're going to either have to beef up security along the way, or
exactly.
But that's one of the real niceties of the current location. You could literally come out of the stadium and walk right directly into BART. And,
and even going to your car late at night, it's no problem because there's security there, and
right.
especially now. I don't know if you noticed that it was after some terror attack. They now have a policeman, an Oakland PD. If you're going into the players' parking lot, you go down there and they check the cars to make sure that there's nothing in the cars.
The F part.
Most people do. Yeah.
The Finley, as in Finley. That's what I used to think. Oh, really?
Yeah.
No O'Reilly. No O'Malley.
I didn't know that. Okay.
But getting back to the Howard site,
yes.
The big problem with Howard site is getting people over there. It's the closest BART station is 12th Street. And you're going to have to either build trolley tracks or just bus service over to get the people over, and it might be a tough walk over there from 12th Street too, which is a tough area.
Then I think of the disabled people, people who...
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they have.
Nancy,
Yeah.
you came up with something. You were thinking about something, and I had a thought about that. The your proposed site on Alameda, on the old point, which, of course, there's no way to get traffic in and out of there, but they could be very, very unique. What they could do is arrange to bus fans in. You park maybe at a locale somewhere in Oakland, everybody, and then they have buses or trams that could bus people out to the point.
Well, I've heard
that's
of
what
other
I always
things.
thought.
I've heard of other proposals there. So, I mean, like
yeah, but it would all be. You would have to arrange it, and that would be so radical with the idea of people driving to a locale to be bused somewhere. So that would work. But
spot.
You're right. There's plenty of room out in Alameda Point.
And you're on the water looking at San Francisco.
Yes,
it
would be great. And we're all three Alamedans or former Alamedans in your case.
Closer. Yeah, you can
Nancy,
see the skyline.
But it would be a nice dream. Let's put it that way.
Oh wow, that would be magnificent. I heard they were thinking of building a film studio out there once, and I'm thinking the other day, well, if they've looked at that, I know that doesn't have crowds coming to it, but why not think of a?
Hey, let me segue a second, because last week, Nancy, I think it was before Jerry got on, you mentioned your families, the Finleys and the Al Davis's family.
Yes.
You socialized, and you guys got together, and I wanted to, because we've made this into an Oakland Sports thing, and the whole idea of building a stadium for Oakland and its absolute necessity right now was brought on by Al Davis moving back with his Raiders and
he built that Coliseum.
taking that, bastardizing that Coliseum, which did have a beautiful view of the North Berkeley Hills, and it was terrific. It wasn't idyllic in the sense that it was kind of cookie. It's always going to be cookie cutter.
Well, why can't they bring that down, since, they're really...
Well, there's more to it than that.
I'll take
the stadium. It's good. You got plumbing problems. You got the sight lines. The A's have the biggest foul territory in baseball, which means that the fans suffer.
Oh, the pitchers love it. Come on, Ralph. The pitchers love that foul territory.
That's true. Yeah. That's very true.
Yeah.
Dave Stewart will be out there with his baseball bat trying to stop anybody from tearing down that stadium.
I feel claustrophobic with that big addition that blocks the view. I feel claustrophobic with that, because I remember the hills, looking up, and then you could see Bart, and on Bart you could see into the Coliseum. Here, I just think, why can't they at least take that down, or why can't the Raiders at least bring it down for us so the rest of us
can... Yeah, I will say one thing they did. They put up those, they closed off the third deck, and they put up those banners and what have you. Mm-hmm. And I didn't think that was such a bad idea. That saved the A's a lot of money on security, on having to open sections that weren't being used, this, that, and the other thing.
No, that was a good aesthetic look. The only time that was not a good idea, and I don't think they saw it, was when they reached the playoffs, and all of a sudden it's selling out, so people are saying, hey, let me buy the third deck if I could get up there, So that is
but, you look at these new stadiums like the Giants, I think it's their capacity is $38,000. 38,000 people. and what have you. So you take that's part of the taking the good with the bad. If you're going to have a stadium that it does make the tickets a premium during playoffs and World Series, but hey, that's part of it. Jerry, I want to talk a little bit about Al Davis himself. And I have a friend that did some photography work for the Raiders way back in the day when they were in Santa Rosa. And he got to meet Al Davis a few times casually. He describes a man with an aura, with kind of it's like a special person. He can't really describe it, but the man kind of glows. What's it like to meet Al Davis? What's he really about? What was he? Late Al Davis, of course.
I met Al Davis once, and we were at in my prior life before doing the sports writing, I was a pharmacist, and I had a pharmacy in Alameda, and I was active in the Alameda County Pharmacists Association.
Really?
Oh yeah, I owned Alameda Drug for 25 years at Park in Santa Clara.
Oh my goodness!
And
you must know Mr. Peterson, who's former my Facebook friend, who's a pharmacist in Alameda.
No, don't know him.
Yeah. Oh,
no, I didn't. But we would meet at Vince's restaurant on Hegenberger, and we're there one night, and we're having our meeting, and a gentleman comes in, and he's sitting at a table, and they bring a telephone over, and you can see he's working, and it was Al Davis. And one of the guys that was in our group had met him before. So after the meeting, this fellow and myself went over, and he introduced me to Al. And we talked for about a half an hour. And this was before they were going to move the team to L.A. for the first time. And he knows, the guy knew his football inside and out. I would throw an obscure college out, like Appalachian State. He would know all the players on Appalachian State, for example. And I asked him, what do you look for in players? He said, I look for winning players. I said, well, what does that mean? And I said, and of course the 49ers had just won their first Super Bowl in 81, or actually in 82. And I said, well, would you have a guy like Bill Ring on your team? He said, no. And, Bill Ring, when he was with the Niners, was a special team player, role player.
So this was after they had moved back. So this was...
just before they were going to move.
After the 70s?
Yeah, this was in early 82.
Okay.
1982. But we asked him questions, and he would tell us, and he talked in platitudes like coach speak. And if you listen to football coaches and baseball managers, they have a way of deflecting questions, and they talk what most people would say coach speak. They answer the questions perfunctorily, and that's what he did. And we'd ask him about different players, and I'd say, why did you pick this guy? And he says, he's a winning player. And again, back to that question, define what it means to be a winning player. And he used to be, he was dead set on, at that point in time, moving to L.A. As I later learned, and I had experience to work with his attorney, Joe Aliotto, in the 90s. And Joe would tell me he really didn't want to leave Oakland. He wanted the city and the county to expand that stadium. They'd only held 51,000 people, and they needed about 65,000 seat stadium. And the NFL, Pete Rozelle, who was the commissioner at the time, talked to Lionel Wilson, who was the mayor of Oakland, and Wilson was willing to give the A's what they want, the Raiders what they wanted. And it was a phone call between Wilson and Pete Rozelle, and Rozelle says, you don't have to do anything. We have the votes, and he can't move. And Al said to himself, we'll see about that. And with Joe Aliotto.
He did conspire with Joe Aliotto, who was an attorney, he just
famous
picked up and
antitrust.
moved.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they got $18 million in the NFL in addition to moving.
Oh yeah, he believed.
Now, why did Mark ask for? Then why did Mark this time when they moved, his son, the new owner, why did he ask for permission and go through it? Did he have it in the back of his mind? Well, if I don't get it, I'll move anyway.
Yeah, he really didn't need it. They don't have an antitrust exemption.
Right.
That's what I've heard.
Baseball has a limited antitrust exemption, but you can't collude, you can't gang up on people, and that's what the NFL did. So,
Yeah.
Davis told us we didn't fight enough. Davis lectured us. I remember when he would be in the suite, he would tell us we need to fight. I mean, that's what I remember. He told Charlie, you need to be more of a fighter.
oh,
Right.
in getting stuff for the A's.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it was kind of interesting.
That's he was nothing if not a fighter. Let's put that. Jerry, that's great knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
From what you said, I get out of it that the first time he moved was really not. He really would have preferred not to move.
Mm-hmm.
The first
Exactly.
time, even though he built the system and
he built that
just did it without permission, he would have rather not done it. And very few people know that.
I suspected it.
Yeah.
Well,
because
I was living in L.A. in the 70s before I came to Alameda in the end of 1979, and I knew that the Coliseum, the L.A. Coliseum, was a nightmare. They had three parties running it. They had the Board of Supervisors, they had the L.A. City Council, and then the legislature. They had a nine-person board, and with three different factions, and nothing ever got done. Mm-hmm. And the night that I met Al Davis, the meeting ended when I asked him, I said, Al, I lived in L.A. I know that Coliseum can't function, and you want to go to the building? It's a terrible place to watch a football game. And he ended the conversation because they were going. But I knew that the sight lines at the L.A. Coliseum is terrible. The sound doesn't carry well. It's a track stadium built for football, used for football. And I thought it was a mistake. And they were only there 13 years, and then they came back. And when they came back, I was on the A's medical staff at the time. And they came back in 95. And the A's were very, very upset because they were being treated as second-class citizens. They were the best tenants at the Coliseum. They had 81 dates plus whatever exhibition games that they had. And here the Raiders were coming in for 8 games plus 2 exhibition seasons. And the politicians were falling all over themselves to get this team back. And the people who ran the Coliseum, rather than treating the A's as the number 1 tenant, they put the A's as the number 2 tenant. And the A's felt slighted by it. Yeah.
Yeah, well, see, when we moved out, when we came out here very quickly, it was because they had a Coliseum already built and they said ready to move into. And this Coliseum was Al Davis's baby. He, from what I heard, he was behind having it built. So this was built by him. We didn't have anything to do with that part. So we moved in. The only thing was the front offices weren't ready, and it was miserable to work in. And they promised they would finish the front offices, and they never did. But it was when we came in, Al Davis was like the king anyway. He had it built. He'd been here. He knew everyone. So we didn't have that feeling but I know the feeling because it always seemed like he was number 1. But when he comes back, I can understand how the A's felt because they hadn't had him here in a while. So, yes, I can see how he would come in and the city would fall all over themselves to give him what he wants. So,
sure.
Fascinating character. Did either of you read a book called Slick about Al Davis? It's just an autobiography that really put his persona into being an inordinately loyal guy to his players, to his wife. His wife was very, very sick for a long time.
Yes,
Coma.
and he just was so devoted to her.
Devoted, nurtured, was there. He certainly wasn't the person that's portrayed in the press.
Well, he would.
Or he could be too. Just people are a mixture. They're not either black or white. People are gray, and he had a lot of gray in him.
He was the type who would make enemies probably because he fought for what he thought was his or what he felt, and
Sure.
Yes, that.
And let's not lose sight of the fact that Al Davis was the commissioner of the AFL and basically forced the move where the two leagues got together. Were it not for him, I doubt very seriously if they would have merged at that time, at least.
Well, it was interesting, Jerry, hearing you talk about what it was like when Davis came back, because I'm thinking, wow, it's too bad that that had to happen at that time, because the A's didn't know what things were like when he was here before. It was just accepted. But when we were in Kansas City, the Chiefs came in 2 years later, and we found out they were given $1 a year lease just for goodwill, and we were paying a lot more than that.
Oh man, what a deal!
That was that caused some hurt feelings back there, and so we kept hoping that we would get the $1 a year lease, and it never happened, which is another reason we had to come out here. But that I see where football is preferred. My experience. That's just the way it is.
Well, that's secular too. Like football has, they were talking about that football taking over as the national pastime a few years ago. That hasn't really been happening. There's a whole bunch of different circumstances that are causing football to lose in popularity. One of them is the outrageous prices to get in.
And parking alone is like $50 in a lot of places.
Right.
If you go down to Levi's, I think it's $50, and a ticket. I used to go to. I was a season ticket holder with the Niners for many, many years, and the last year I was there, which was 2007, was $64, and the next year they were going up to $84, and now. God knows what the price is for that ticket. It's probably close to $200. And then you had to buy the seat license. And the experience, from what I understand, at the Levi's is not too terrific because of if you're sitting on the east side, you're going to bake.
Oh, wow.
They're having all kinds of problems with the city, talking about security, who's responsible for this,
that's a pretty
who's responsible
stadium.
for that.
I know.
Yeah.
Wow.
Nothing goes smoothly with these things, and it's very difficult when they make these decisions. There are unintended consequences that occur down the road, and you have to be prepared when these things come up. You have to have some contingency planning, and I'm sure the A's will not.
Yeah.
The A's are going to have to do that if they want to build a ballpark. I'd love it.
Oh, you mentioned the ecological, something I never thought about, the ecological consequences of all of this. And now I can see why, 4, 5, 6 years isn't out of the question.
Right.
That's going to that's a tremendous hurdle right there.
Yeah, there was on the web today, they were talking just about the trash. And there are examples that tens of thousands of people will cross the Channel Bridge every day to get to the stadium from the Lake Merritt BART station, dropping trash that is both unsightly and dangerous to wildlife that lives in the channel. And then the discarded food from the tailgate parties will attract rats and other scavengers. So there are other factors.
And
the light,
is it my
floorboards, and parking.
I'm sorry. Are there less trash cans now, or is that my imagination? I heard it was because of terrorism.
That's a big. But it could be. But don't forget that they search every package. You have to go through a metal detector when you get into the ballpark.
Oh, I know. I'm glad they have that. That's right.
Yeah, I am too, because they got to be doing something. How about the plastic bombs, though? If you think about it, we're not terrorism changed everything. It's been like 16 years, 17 years now since 9/11. It's changed the world, and that's the scary part. That
we never thought someone would kill himself. We always thought if someone might go in and shoot and then run out or something, but we never, as you know, we never thought they would take themselves with them. So yes, it is different, and you're right. They have to look for plastics and everything.
Well, the NFL has it a little bit different for women. They cannot bring their purses in. They have to have a plastic purse.
Really?
Yeah, my girlfriend's daughter and son-in-law went to a soccer game at Levi Stadium, and they had a long walk from the parking lot, and she had a regular purse, and they wouldn't let her in. And
wow, they should at least tell them that in advance.
Yeah.
Even if they open it up and show them what's in there?
Yeah. No, they got to see it. And so the women got to do it, and if you can't do it, you got to take your purse back to the car and put it in the car.
Oh.
They're very strict. They're very strict on that. Is it a little bit draconian? Probably, but I think it's for the best. I don't mind. I don't mind at all going through metal detectors or any of that stuff.
Oh no.
And of course, since I had my knees replaced, when I go through the airport, I get searched every time.
Jerry, what did you have them replaced with? I always like to ask people.
There's titanium.
Metal. Must be.
Oh, okay. Not like a squirrel or something. Okay, you never know.
Titanium.
Before we go, Jerry, give us a little weekend review for the Oakland A's.
Wow, what a terrific road trip the A's are on. Just completed.
Was that something?
Yeah, that was a winning road trip. They won 6 out of the 9 games. And they played very, very well, albeit against 2 teams that are not doing well, the Phillies and the Tigers. But it doesn't matter. A win is a win. And they're showing off their young players. Matt Olson, what a streak that young man was on. He hit home runs in 5 consecutive games to set an A's rookie record. He has 23 homers in less than 60 games, and if you extrapolate that out, that's close to 65 home runs for a season, and that's, of course, without doing it with the juice. So he's doing well. Matt Chapman is playing well. Chad Pinder was all over the place, and he had some key hits. What can you say about Jed Lowry? The veteran is having might be considered for comeback player of the year.
Hit a granny the other night to win a ball game.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's
not bad.
I wish Dave Niehaus were around. I loved his Grand Slam call. Okay, Grandma, get out the rye bread and the mustard. I love that.
Yes, I miss him.
I wish I got to know him. I saw him once over in the media lounge a couple of years ago, and he passed away over the winter, and I was really sad to see that I missed not talking to him.
Yeah. He covered us in the 70s. You weren't here with our big consecutive wins.
No, we have to pay homage to the Cleveland Indians who broke that record.
Yes.
22. Well, Nancy, I don't know if you know, the night the A's went for their 20th straight win, September 4th, 2002, I threw out the first pitch that night.
I did not know that. How did you get invited to do that?
Oh, how did I get to do that? That's a good question. Back I told you I was on the medical staff of the A's in the 90s. And I was doing business with AmerisourceBergen, and they had a buying co-op known as Good Neighbor Pharmacy. And in 1998, when I had my credential, I had full run of the stadium. So, and I never went up to the press box very much. But in 1998, I went up there.
Our doctors were up there a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. I became friendly with Marty Lord.
Oh, I like Marty.
And Marty would buy time on the various stations. He was on the Cat at the time. And I said to him, in Good Neighbor Pharmacy, got advertising money from various sponsors, from various manufacturers. And they would buy time on CNN at 3 in the morning or on KNBR or whatever radio station. And no one heard the advertising. And I said to these, it seems if Good Neighbor Pharmacy will sponsor Marty, there'll be a better program for you. What they did, they bought that concept, and they would advertise, and Marty, they're still sponsoring Marty, even though he's with the Giants. They would tag the pharmacies at the end. So 2 pharmacies would get tagged at the end of the commercial. So in 2002, the A's wanted to reward Good Neighbor Pharmacy for being a sponsor, and they said, is there anyone that you'd like to have throughout the first pitch?
Oh.
And so they recommended me, and I picked the night, September 4th, 2002, to do it, not knowing that they were going to win 20 straight games. It was just coincidental.
Wow. There should be a website devoted to who threw out first pitches. I've always thought.
Yeah, your daughter threw out a first pitch, Nancy.
Yes, she did. Yes.
I think that's what really basically motivated the book. Am I correct?
Yeah. Well, yes. That was in honor of my dad, and then I started thinking, how can I have to do more for him. I just have to keep his memory alive. Yes, that was
very cool. Now, before we go, I just have to ask Jerry, did you bounce the pitch?
Oh, no. Eric Burns was my catcher, and I threw a strike. Did not bounce.
All right.
All right.
I'm proud of you on behalf of Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. How about that?
Well, thank you. By the way, Ralph, I'd like to thank you for having Duffy Dyer on your program. Duffy, as you know,
we did the other day on my Flying High Over the Zone show. Duffy was a coach with,
he was a
and
coach
I
with the
asked
A's.
him. I hope Nancy will listen to this. I asked him about his experiences with Oakland. What a great guy, huh?
Oh, he's terrific. I was on the medical staff at the same time that he was a coach with Art Howe. And
Art Howe is who was with Taylor when she threw out her pitch.
Art Howe, to me, is the most regular guy ever in baseball.
Absolutely. Jerry, let me tell you, it was picture day. My kid's 27 now. He was like a little kid, and the A's had a picture day, and I took him on the field, and Art Howe, all the players communicated with him in one way or the other. There was one player who looked him in the eye, and that was Matt Stairs. And there was one human that not only looked him in the eye, knelt down and talked to him as if he were a human, and that was Art Howe. And I was
wonderful.
So impressed by that. I'm kind of an entrepreneur coming up with these ideas. I even had an idea and how baseball instruction, and I was going to go to him, and he was so good with kids. I saw that right there, and I thought, wow, that would be a guy for a baseball school, and have him not only not just the physical things that you want to teach these kids or anybody communicate. Art Howe, it's the personal one-on-one thing. He's just a great guy, no question.
Yeah. May I just tell you one before we go? I just want to tell you a story about Art. And this was 5 years ago. This is 5 years ago when we had the 10th anniversary of the 20-game winning streak. And Art was in Oakland, and I took a picture with him and Thad Bosley, and we were talking. And if you recall, in 2011, the movie Moneyball came out, and they did not portray Art very nicely. And we were talking about that, and he was very, very upset about the way they made him look in the movie. And I told him, that anyone that knows Art Howe knows that movie was pure fiction. They had a Coke machine or a Pepsi machine.
I heard about that.
Yeah, the players had to buy their own soda. That was a total fiction. Did not exist. Never existed. And they showed Art was very upset. They had Philip Seymour Hoffman portray him, and Hoffman won an Academy Award playing the Truman Capote in the movie In Cold Blood. But Art Howe, and anyone who knows Art, knows that the reason they used him as a tool. They wanted to create conflict in the movie. It's movies like to have confrontation and conflict.
Yeah.
And they made him look that way, as if he were in conflict with Billy Beane. And Art said, I would never grab Billy Beane in the corridor and discuss my contract with him in the hallways. Never. And I said, of course you wouldn't.
Yeah, I was told not to see that movie because I would,
Oh, yeah.
It's a lot of fiction. See, we have enough melodrama for real.
In real life.
Yeah.
Who needs it?
It's not made up.
One more story.
I guess they were trying to go out of their way to show that they were penny pinching or something for Moneyball.
Yeah, exactly. But one more Art House story. I was in the trainer's room, and Jason Giambi was up on the table, and he had a strained quadricep. And Art went over to him and said, Jason, do you think you can play today? Jason said, yeah, I can play, Skip. Sure, I can play. You know, what player's going to say no when he can't play? So Art asked him a question. He said, if you're on second base and there's a single to center, you think you can score? And Jason hedged on it. And Art said, look, son, you're going to be in baseball for a long time. And I don't want to aggravate your injury. I want you to sit down today. We're going to take care of you, and you're going to get plenty of opportunity to play. And I thought that was a really neat thing for a manager to do. I really did. And that's the kind of guy Art Howe is.
Oh, I
say something like, to put it in that way, look, son, and I can picture him treating his players like his own family.
And he did.
Nice.
And he was wonderful to Taylor. I mean, excellent.
Yeah.
He was great.
Hey, this is
everyone.
This is a nice talking about somebody who I truly respect as a human, and to be able to end the show doing that, paying homage to him, really makes this a terrific episode. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be back next week. Yes, it's the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network.
Yes,
I'm
we're comfortable.
privileged to be with Nancy Finley and Jerry Feitelberg, and we'll be back next week. Thank you again.
See you then.
Oakland Sports, past, present, and future. A new name. I'm still getting used to it, but enjoying it. Thanks, guys.
Okay, thank you.
Be well.
You there?
Yeah, I am. Trying to turn.
Conference muted.